cannot dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Hey everybody, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I am your host, Brent Thomas, and these are our night terrors. Welcome to the night terrors, everybody. Hope you guys are doing great. Happy, how do you say it? Happy end of the weekend. Sorry, it's the end of the weekend. Maybe that's more appropriate, but hope you've had a good weekend, whatever you've been doing. It was some beautiful weather around here, so it wasn't quite as painful for me. So I always love that when I can get out a little bit and enjoy what's left of the warm weather before it just starts to suck. But I don't know. What do you do? I'm living in the wrong place. Can't help it. Anyway, we've got a lot to go through here tonight. These are the night terrors, ghostly encounters. So I got a lot of things to go through you. But first and foremost, if you have the desire to call in and share something paranormal of your very own, please feel free to call in. The number is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. I always have to do the hand thing. I don't know. It's just one of those habits you develop over time. But anyway, welcome to the show. I appreciate you guys being here, and thank you for everybody that tuned in over the last couple nights as well. Friday and Saturday nights were a lot of fun. And it's always great to have those 2-hour shows, especially when Don's here. Makes it extra fun and easier on me, so that was a good time. But now after tonight, of course, Monday, Tuesdays, we don't do live shows here on YouTube, but if you still need some portal fix, you can go check out our podcast. New episode will be coming out as after the show today. I'll be releasing that. And then you can always check out our 820-some episodes that are on the archive here on YouTube. We have over 800 Paranormal Portal streams that are right there for your picking and choosing. So hopefully you'll find something that you like to watch over the next couple of days, but please continue to spread the word as well. And if you're not already subscribed, please get subscribed and become part of the family. We'd love to have you here, and ring that bell so you know when we're going live. That's always the challenge with especially with YouTube. I know the notifications don't always work, but just keep checking that bell. If you already have rung it, check it again. It does get unrung somehow. So anyway, that's all I got on the front end here. So I hope y'all are ready, because it's time for bed. All right. I'm still live and at it here, and you're still here with me, so we're off to a great start. Special hello to Mr. Kerry Arnold. Good to see you, brother. Nice to see you come in and slumming it with us over here. It's always fun to see other shows coming in and hanging out. It's a great honor. So good to see you. Thanks for being here. I got a bunch of paranormal stories cooked up here, ready to go, so I hope you guys are ready to be wildly entertained, because that's always my objective here on the show. I'm not sure I always succeed, but it's always my best intention. So the first story tonight is coming out of, I'm just looking to see how long this was. This one has a lot of dialogue in it, so I'm going to have to do like a little acting here. So we'll see how this works. But this one's from California. It has to do with family and friends visits. It says, I'm a 16-year-old girl living in Los Angeles, California. It was a normal day, just like any other. I was at home alone, sitting on the couch, just watching television, when suddenly the room became cold. I wouldn't have cared about the temperature, but what caught my attention was an eerie whisper that seemed to echo, Nina. Let me try this again. Hold on. Nina. Nina. And my nickname. And remember, I was alone. It seemed stronger when I got up from the couch and entered my bedroom. I saw a girl around the age of 7 years with black hair running down her back and those black eyes. Wait, black eyes? My eyes widened in surprise when I saw my little sister, and I sighed in relief. Don't do that, I whispered, and she just smiled. Is Mommy home? I asked her because obviously my parents went to pick her up at school and somewhere just off the freeway, and she shook her head and said something that made me shake. Can you tell Mommy not to cry anymore? Well, then the phone rang. I went to answer it, and it was a call from the hospital where my parents were because of a car accident. Wait, what? The lady had passed the phone to my mom. Honey, don't be sad. But she couldn't keep from sobbing. Your sister went into a coma shortly, 3 hours before the car accident, and she didn't make it. And then she burst into tears. I was confused. Mom, Angie's right here. I looked to see the little girl had vanished, just like that from my room. As silent tears rolled down my cheeks, I knew what I had to do. Mom, exactly what time did she die? And I fell down an hour ago. My sister's 7-year-old sister was gone. I will never be able to see her smile or hear her laughter. Wow. I don't know. Is that a real story? It sure could be. It's kind of written in a real dramatic fashion, which makes me wonder. Again, I will never bring stories to this show that are not represented as truth, but I can't always verify that they are indeed true. Sometimes you read something and it's like, wow, that seems really dramatic. And not that losing someone is horribly dramatic, don't get me wrong, but I always have to wonder. And I honest to God, I sure hope that's not real. That's what a heartbreaker, my God. I guess it's something, though. If you're visited by a loved one that's passed away, that's maybe a beautiful thing. But, in this case, what a tragic way to find out. Anyway, let's continue on. I hope you enjoyed that. It was a very quick story. This one is coming from Indiana, and it has to do with haunted places. At the time these incidents took place, I was around 45 years old, and I had by then lived in many different houses in both the U.S. and other countries. My family and I had never experienced anything like the things we experienced in the old green farmhouse in Indiana. Let me start by saying that I'm an atheist, and have been one since I was very young. My husband and I did not expose our children to church, but we did not forbid church for them. We left it up to them to decide for themselves when they got older. In 2003, my family needed to move from the house where we were living, and my boys loved their school, and we didn't want to move very far. I'd driven past an old, crooked green farmhouse just around the corner for years, and I wondered if we could rent it. Well, I contacted the owner, and he showed me around. The house was in abysmal shape and needed a complete overhaul to even be livable. I told him I was willing to do the work to fix it up, and he agreed to apply the money we would spend on the house as rent. My husband was working long hours and my boys were in school, so I drove to the house every day and I worked on it. Tearing out plaster, redoing the kitchen and the bathroom plumbing, putting down new floors, taking walls down, etc. I spent almost every weekday alone in that house, and every weekend my husband and sons helped out with the heavy lifting and cleanup. The renovations took about 4 months, and nothing strange happened or unsettling happened during that time. Then came the day when we could finally move in. It took most of the day, but we finally got settled, and I left my husband and youngest son, and I'll call him H, at the house while I drove to the school to pick up my 13-year-old, I'll call him J, from an after-school activity. By the time we got close to home, it was fully dark. My son and I were chatting about school in his new room as we drove past the house to the driveway, and I looked up in his bedroom window. We hadn't had time to put curtains up yet, and said, "Uh-oh, your brother's in your room." I could see the outline of a person at the window because he'd left his bedroom light on. I didn't look at my watch, but it didn't take us more than a couple of minutes to park the van and walk in the front door. Well, I was shocked when I saw my husband and H sitting in the living room watching television. I remember I asked H how he got downstairs so quickly, and my husband said they'd both been sitting right there since I'd left to pick up Jay. I knew there was no way for H to have crossed Jay's room, go down the hallway, down the stairs, through the dining room, across the living room, and be sitting on the couch in the time it took us to park the van and walk 10 feet to the front door. Jay and I told them what we had seen, and my husband suggested that what I thought was a person at the window was more likely a branch of the huge weeping willow tree growing in the front yard. Well, that didn't seem possible to me, so we all walked outside and into the street to the spot where the van had been when I saw the figure. It wasn't the willow tree, and the figure was gone. But we walked up and down the street over and over again trying to find or line up a branch to the tree to the window, and we just couldn't do it. Well, finally we shook our heads and just went back into the house. I really didn't think all that much more about it. A few months later, I wasn't feeling well, and I decided to go upstairs to my room and just take a nap. I closed my bedroom door so my cat and dog wouldn't get in the room and wake me, because I've always been a very light sleeper, and I didn't want them to jump on the bed. I was just drifting off and felt something pressing down on the foot of my bed. I opened my eyes and sat up, thinking my cat had already been in the room when I closed the door, but she wasn't on the bed. I got up and searched under the bed and in the closet, and she wasn't there. I went downstairs and asked my husband if he'd seen her, and he told me that she'd been sitting in the windowsill watching the birds in the yard for at least a half an hour. There's no way she was upstairs. I told myself that I was just dreaming about what I had felt on the bed. My son Jay had a good friend who spent several nights at our house, but I noticed one day that he hadn't been around in a while, and I asked Jay if they had a fight or something, and Jay said that his friend wouldn't come to our house anymore, and I asked why. And he said that the last time his friend had spent the night, he was alone in Jay's room watching TV on the bed. Jay had gone to the bathroom, and he said that he felt someone sit on the foot of the bed, but there was no one there. It scared him so much he refused to come over to our house ever again. Yikes. I hadn't told Jay about what I experienced in my bedroom, but very shortly after that, my son began begging us to let him go to church with one of his friends, and I think what was happening in the house had really frightened him. More time went by, and we all began to hear footsteps on the stairs, and there was no one there, and footsteps upstairs when we were all downstairs. Nothing really scary, just things that made us say, "What?" But finally, about a month before we moved, I was walking across the kitchen when a bottle of my son's cologne literally flew across the room in front of me. My husband was in the living room and saw it also. Well, that did scare me a little. We decided that it must have been my walking across the bouncy kitchen floors that knocked the bottle off, but it didn't just fall. It was more like it was thrown, because it went straight across directly in front of me. We now live in a different house, and none of us have experienced anything similar. Other people are living in the old green farmhouse now, and I want to stop by and just ask them if they've noticed anything strange, but I don't know them personally, and I don't really want to look like an idiot. As an atheist, it's hard for me to explain what happened at the old farmhouse, but I've basically accepted that we are sort of like fish in a pond. Fish have no ability to perceive or even imagine the world we people inhabit just outside of the water. Perhaps we humans are just living in our own little pond. I think we are, ladies and gentlemen. We're all living in a pond. Some of our pond water is cleaner than other ponds, but it just depends on the person, I guess. I think my water is pretty muddy some of the times, but it is what it is. All right, here's another story. This one is coming from California. Family and friends visits. These are usually pretty good stories. I like these. These are heartwarming generally. It says, I'm writing about an experience I had 2 months ago with my then 16-month-old son. I've had a couple of paranormal experiences throughout my life, and this is the most recent. For this story, I'll give a little background info to begin with. My grandma, Mimi, died on September 27th, 2005, just a month and some days after Hurricane Katrina hit. She had been battling Alzheimer's for 8 years. By this time, she had no idea who we were or even who she was, and she didn't talk. Up to this point, and was living in a nursing home in New Orleans where she had 24-hour care. They had evacuated her home because of the hurricane, and they felt the stress of the move was the reason that she passed. Her ashes were just recently buried this past November 2008 because the cemeteries in New Orleans still were unfit for burying. So for 3 years, my Mimi's ashes sat in my parents' house, which for some reason I sort of found creepy. Before the Alzheimer's hit her badly, she lived in an apartment building for senior citizens, and I would often stay there and loved my visits with her. She always kept Kit Kats in the fridge because she said they tasted better cold, and I would always eat them. I particularly remember the smell of her place. It wasn't a bad smell, it was her smell. She also sold Avon for many, many years and was practically her life after her husband had died. In April of 2006, I got married and moved with my husband to Southern California. In October 2007, my son was born. My son has never met my grandmother, obviously, and I don't have any pictures of her. All were lost in the hurricane, and I don't talk about her around him. I've never mentioned the word Mimi to my son, nor has anyone else. Well, my son was with me in November 2008, and when we finally buried my grandmother's ashes in the crypt. At the burial, her full name was used. Nothing special happened that day. March 2009, I was in the living room cleaning up. My son was down for a nap in his room with the door closed, and I recently started to sell Avon and had tons of boxes in the living room, so I was clearing them out, and all of a sudden I smelt a smell that didn't smell like apple cinnamon. I had candles burning. Not just any smell. My Mimi smell. The smell of her apartment, her clothes, whatever. It was her smell. I was looking around thinking, I'm losing my mind. I have nothing out that belongs to her. The only thing I do have is a hand mirror, which is in a drawer in my bedroom, which smells nothing like her after it sat in hurricane water for quite some time. A ring and a necklace, which are both locked away. Well, they quickly went away, and I just brushed it off, but smiled at the fact that, hey, maybe she came for a visit. But to assure myself, I sniffed in all the Avon boxes, which smelled like cardboard boxes. Well, maybe she just stopped by to check out the new line of Avon products. She was dedicated. Maybe that was important to her. An hour or so later, after my son woke up and I went in to get him, as I walked into his room, I noticed the faint smell of Mimi. But it was instantly gone. Now, my son was standing in his crib smiling and laughing, and I placed him on his changing table to change his diaper, and he pointed to the ceiling and said, Mimi. And looking at him, I said, no, baby, Mama. And I pointed to myself. Well, he then pointed to me and said, Mama, and then pointed to the corner over his crib and said, Mimi. I didn't really know what to think at this point, so I said to my son, did Mimi come and play with you? And he just clapped. That night, I put him in his crib at 9 p.m., turned on his musical turtle, turned on his lava lamp, turned off all the lights and closed the door. My son doesn't fall asleep right away sometimes, and I can hear him kicking the wall or babbling to himself, but this lasted 30 minutes to an hour at the most. His room is next to my husband's and my room, and I don't go to bed early, and I was lying in bed reading when I heard my son talking loudly. I looked at the clock thinking, why is he awake? It's 2 a.m. So I got out of bed, and just as I was about to open his door, I heard him saying, me, 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 me. And then he would laugh. For some reason, my cheeks started to burn. No idea why this happened. It may have nothing to do with this occurrence, but I opened the door, and my Mimi smell hits me. It was so strong in his room that I felt like it would knock me back. And there was my son standing up in his crib, laughing and bouncing, and I walked over to him just to check him out, but by this time, the smell had faded. By the time I laid him back down and covered him, the smell was gone. Back in my room, and too creeped out to sleep, I read some more and continued to hear my son say, Mimi. I don't know when I fell asleep, but I remember dreaming about her. We were sitting in her living room eating Kit Kats, her favorite, and she said to me, I'm glad you're finally happy. The next day, and from then on, even to this day, I've not smelled her smell, and my son has not said Mimi. I'm a firm believer that children can see what we adults cannot, or choose not to see, and in my heart I feel that she wanted to meet and play with her great-grandson, and to check up on me too. See, that's a beautiful story. I love those. And I think smells are probably one of the first ways that spirits will try to communicate with us. I think that, there's a lot of reasons smells can appear or disappear, and they aren't necessarily paranormal, like humidity. If you have a lot of woodwork, wood trim, wood doors, wood furniture can absorb. Wood absorbs smells, and it will emit smells a lot of times if the humidity goes up or temperature changes can cause the wood to expand and contract. So that can introduce scents into a room that you may mistake for potentially being spiritual. But in this case, the smells were so unique to her grandmother's place, and she had none of those belongings with her. So that to me stands out as, wow, that could really be something. I think that they most often, if our loved ones visit us, they don't want to freak us out. They don't want to startle us and, have us reaching for a Bible and holy water. They just want to come and see us and let us know that they're there. And so I think they can do that sometimes if the one song comes on the radio and it was that song, and then it inspires those memories. Maybe they help with that kind of stuff. Maybe they make sure a song is played. I don't know. I can't pretend to know, but I do think smells are probably the most common way that they will let themselves be known to us. And God, there's some smells that you can just smell and boom, you're transported to another time in your life. There's a few that I can't explain the smells, but when they hit my nose, it's like, boom, I'm suddenly in Michigan at my cousin's house, hanging out with them. And it's one of the, highlights of my life. I love that time, but those smells kind of just come and it's like, wow. And it brings you that place. It transports you there. So I think smells are a great indication that maybe someone's visiting. Just a thought. Believe what you want to believe, but that's what I believe. All right, let's go to the next one, ladies and gentlemen. Another story. All right, let's see what's going on. Hey, nice. Got quite a few of you guys here with us. Thank you for coming in, everybody. And if you're not already subscribed, please get subscribed. These night terrors are just ghostly encounter stories. So, but on Wednesday, Friday, Saturdays, we do 2-hour shows that are paranormal talk shows, and we cover a lot of different things and have guests. So we got a few great guests coming in the near future, by the way. I haven't announced them, but there's going to be some epic shows coming up. And let's go to the next story here. This is New York, and has to do with psychic medium kind of stories. These stories I find interesting because, sometimes it's hard to understand when you hear people say that they're psychic. Well, some people, I'll be the first to admit, when somebody starts blowing their own psychic horn, to me, it's like, but are you really? Because I think a lot of people use that title and they use it very loosely. And to me, psychic people I don't think they're uncommon. I think we all have a degree of that in us, but I think, for someone to call themselves truly a psychic, they have to be pretty exceptional. But I forgot where I was going with that. I had a whole narrative in my head just before that. It was just crazy. And then suddenly it was like, done. But anyway, I remember where I was going. Sometimes these stories are kind of neat. There are a few authors that I've come across submitters, I guess, that have come across that do submit quite a few of their ghostly encounter stories. And it's kind of neat because it gives you a window into what they experience and how they experience it. Because for, people like me on the outside looking in, what does it sound like to hear a spirit when nobody else is hearing it? What is it like to see that when nobody else is seeing it, So I always wonder what that experience is like. And so these stories I enjoy because it kind of gives you a little glimpse into the experience of a psychic. And I don't know whether these are legitimate psychics or not, but still I find the stories interesting. So let's read this one. It says, this story is really hard for me to write about, but I think I have to. My friend John and I were walking around my neighborhood about a week ago, just talking as good friends do, when I had this strangest feeling come over me. I got dizzy and turned to John to ask if we could go back to my house. And when I turned to him, he wasn't moving. It was as if everything was slowed down. I was so confused. Then out of nowhere, I heard his voice in my head. Someone you know will be caught between your world and mine. I shook my head and blinked, thinking that I was losing it. And when I opened my eyes, John was talking and walking like nothing even happened. I asked if he felt okay. He says, "Yeah, man." I was a little freaked out. After almost 10 more minutes of walking, we arrived back at my house. By this time, he had to go home, so I gave him a friendly hug and we went on inside. It was about 8 p.m. and I was really tired, so I went up to my room, I showered, and just went to bed. Well, I woke up at around 2:54, sweating, with that same feeling as before. I looked around my dark room but saw nothing, but then I heard something that freaked me out. I heard a car screech loudly, then a gunshot, and then a scream. I was shaking by this point, so I ran downstairs, threw open the door, and saw nothing. I thought that was to be impossible because it sounded like it was right outside. Well, not seeing what I heard scared me to death. I ran back upstairs, flew into bed, and closed my eyes tight, holding my ears. The next time I opened my eyes, it was morning, and my mom was in my room. She looked very sad, and she said that John was shot last night in a drive-by and was now in the hospital. He was in a coma. And in parentheses it says trapped. I'm sorry, I have to stop there. I can't write anymore. Anyone want to help me through this? That's tough. I mean, this story's old. This story's from 2009, so it's not a new story. I don't know. Comas are weird. They're like a weird state. You got to wonder, is the person going to return? Can they return? Are they truly stuck? Are they kind of trapped there? There's stories, people in comas can hear people talking to them. They can hear when people visit, and they may have enough awareness to know that somebody's there or somebody they love is there, but they just seem kind of stuck. And what a horrible hell that would be. You got to think of like sleep paralysis, except like all the time throughout the duration of a coma. That would be just horrible. I don't know. I would love to know how this story turned out, what happened, but that's all they gave us, so I guess there's not much more to go on there. That is freaky, though. The next story is coming from Alabama. It has to do with pets and animals. I love animal stories. Just did a interview for the podcast with a lady from Minnesota, and she had a really neat encounter seeing her old cat. And it was, the cat was hers from when she was a teenager, but she was an adult and saw that same cat still hanging around her. And I thought, what a neat experience is that? Maybe they do really stick with us. Everybody that's had pets, if you're a pet lover, if you're an animal lover, then, the idea of being separate from them is pretty painful, but maybe they stick with us. So let's see what this story says. One night I was getting ready for bed, getting dressed and running back and forth to the bathroom. Well, I finally got everything together for the next morning and made my way to the living room. Picking on my brothers, Devin and Cameron, on the way. We had recently gotten a toy poodle. Precious, about five months back, and she was asleep with my mom in my parents' bedroom on the foot of the bed as usual. My dad was away on a business trip, so it was my brothers and I were in the living room watching television. My mom had gone to bed about 30 minutes before, and I started to hear Precious barking furiously. I heard my mom yell, fear in her voice, "Megan, get this dog out of here." I rushed to my parents' bedroom. The lights were off, so with the dim light from the hall shining in the room, I really couldn't see much. Excuse me. But Precious continued to bark as if she was about to attack someone. I was so confused, and I could feel my mother's fear, and I quickly turned on the master bath light and looked up to see what was going on. Precious' fur was sticking straight up, was barking and leaping towards the corner of the room, closest to my mom's bed. She would dodge and act as if something was coming for her, but continued to bark at the corner of the room. I scooped her up, and she abruptly stopped barking. I was consoling her and looked at my mom finally. Her eyes were big as she was pressed up against the headboard of the bed, looking terrified and confused. I've never seen my mother scared except for the time my youngest brother almost choked to death on an everlasting gobstopper. But the expression on her face washed away all of my doubt that this could be explained, that this was something natural. Precious never slept within my parents' room again. I was wondering if this certain event could possibly coincide with one time my mom went to bed early. I don't think anyone else was home, but she said she fell asleep and she was on her back, and she had a dream of a blue outline of a man that came to the side of her bed and reached down to her waist and started squeezing the breath out of her. My mom was trying to wiggle free, and she woke herself up. Thinking the dream was over, the breath was still being squeezed out of her as she looked up, and there was the blue outline of the man, and he let go of her and slowly disappeared. She told me about how it scared her so. Yeah, pets are great early warning systems for spiritual presences. They just don't have any problem usually being very aware of the energy in a room. Now, I realize to some people that might sound weird, but historically speaking, cats have been considered a sacred animal, and in Egypt were guardians of tombs and such. But if you listen to even a person like Caesar, the dog whisperer, he oftentimes talks about how pets are a mirror to the owners. Now, there might be something with body language that pets can pick up that's real subtle, but it might be something more, because they seem to definitely respond. They are just like a mirror to whatever's going on with the person that owns them or is with them. If the pet is really restless and high strung and just a real handful, then probably that person is a pretty high stress person that this animal is attached to. And I really think that has a lot to do with some kind of empathy, that these pets have this empathy. They can feel the energy of the owner. Like if you're calm, even if a dog's barking, and I've used this technique that I learned about it from Caesar, but I learned this technique from him about, I had to go up to this house. It was a friend's house, but he had this German Shepherd that was it was not a very nice dog. It wasn't a bad dog, but he was just really skittish. Excuse me. And it was a trained dog. He was a guard dog, and I hadn't really met him, just maybe one time briefly before that. And my friend wasn't there, but he had asked me to run up and do something or get something. So I'm there, and there's this German Shepherd right on the front of his house, on his porch, barking. And one of the things I had to do was to tend to the pet. And this pet wasn't liking me at all. So the only thing I could think to do was something I heard from Caesar, and that was just turn your back and sit down. And I'm not recommending this, ladies and gentlemen. This is not, well, I heard it on the portal. I'm not liable for any bad advice that I might be sharing with you, but I did it. And the dog barked a little bit, but then he just kind of calmed down. He quit barking because I wasn't feeding him the energy. I was just sitting there, just minding my own business until he calmed down. And then I had this little jerky in my hand, and I kind of put it next to me. And he'd come up and grab a bite, and then he'd go back and eat it about 5 feet away. Then I put out another one, and that's, and eventually I left it in my hand. And then when he got that one, I just started petting him, and it was fine. But that was an animal that responded to my energy state. I didn't give it all kinds of anxiety or fear or anything, and so they just mellowed out. So I think pets do respond to energy. These animals are tuned into that. They have a footstep in our world and the natural world, and I don't think that spiritual stuff is unnatural at all. I think it's just a part of the natural world. So believe it or not, but I'm sure every pet owner can tell you stories about how their pets really were tuned into something. I had a cat once. I had a surgery, and that cat did not leave me through the duration of my healing process. I had my emergency appendectomy. I didn't know I was having it. I just found out. And the next thing I know, I'm waking up from surgery, and I finally go home, and he wouldn't leave. He was a very aloof cat, didn't have a lot to do with me. But as soon as I came home and I was wounded like that, he stayed on me for days, up to like a week. And then once I got better, he ran away. but he was there when I needed him. So I don't know what you think of all that stuff, but I think it's pretty powerful. I think these animals are incredibly powerful, powerfully aware of that energy, and they help to process it. Yeah. So good to see you all in here. Thank you for coming in. Again, if you're not subscribed, get subscribed. All the cool people are subscribed. That's all I'm saying. There's peer pressure. All right, here's the next one. Is from Alabama. Oh. Wait a minute. No, I already read that one. I almost just reread the same story I just finished. How rookie would that be, huh? Okay, this one's coming from Massachusetts, and it has to do with a haunted life. Now, if you ever hear me say a haunted life, it means they've had a lot of different things throughout their life. So that's what that generally means. All right. Here we go. It says, let me first start off by giving some background information. I am, it says N, but M, 18 now, and this happened a long time ago. I always believed in spirits, but I was 7 when this happened. I've not used any Ouija board at this age. The story takes place at my school at first. I was at my school after school with a friend, Carrie. At one point, Carrie told me to look downstairs, and she would look upstairs. I don't understand what they're looking for, but okay. I was walking, and I started hearing footsteps behind me. I thought it was Carrie, so I looked behind me, but there was nothing there. Well, this happens to me about 3 more times. The last time I looked behind me, I saw a girl about 12 or 14 years old in front of me. Well, this surprised me and made me fall backwards, and she held a hand out to help me up, but she wasn't able to grip a living person, meaning I went right through and almost fell forward. And she kept asking, "Can we play?" So I agree and got less scared. I don't know. This is unusual. Her name is Himiko. Himiko? Himiko. She always seems to be following me. We talk a lot. She's Chinese and fun to talk with. When I first met her, she didn't know she was dead, and I feel bad for her not knowing why she didn't know. I only wish I could find more about her. This is all true. Not one single word of this is a lie. I hope to hear what you all think. I guess it's possible. If this person is perhaps psychically gifted. I hate that term gifted, but anyway, it's a common usage, so I'm going to use it. But I don't know. I've talked to many psychics through the years, the ones that I believe in, and they talk about having dialogue with these spirits. And it's not a lot different than you might talk to somebody you meet in your day. So even though this sounds really matter of fact and like we talk all the time, I guess, if you're tuned in enough, you could do that. I think that's pretty interesting. If that is possible, I'm pretty envious of that, because I think that what an amazing opportunity it would be to be able to talk to somebody who is in that state, just to see, what are you experiencing? What is your reality like? What's going on with you? Because I think those are the great questions. Those are the huge questions. What's next? What is it like there? Some people come back from near-death experiences with these stories of, heaven, the tunnel of light, seeing loved ones, seeing religious figures, seeing any number of things. And some people have the alternate experience where they're seeing desolate wastelands and pain and suffering and sadness and everything in between. But, I guess it would be interesting to know what that meant. What is it they experience? But there is that story. Here's another one. Let's see, what is the time? Oh, we're doing good. Okay. Here's another one, ladies and gentlemen. This one is coming from New York. And it has to do with, oh, God, it's sleep paralysis. No offense, I just don't like covering sleep paralysis stories because there's a ton of them out there, and there's not a lot of difference between them. It's like, I went to bed and felt this weight on me. I woke up, but I couldn't move, and I was trapped and stuck and took forever, but, then it broke for whatever reason, whether it's by a prayer or the person, willing it to be done and it finally quits. But there's not a lot new with sleep paralysis stories. But some people get it wrong, so I guess we'll read it and see if it is indeed sleep paralysis. Some people, I think, are just being attacked. All right, so this is, ever since I was 4, I've been having weird dreams that there was a little girl that was my age, and she looked exactly like me, only her skin was lighter and her hair was way longer. The thing is, in these dreams, it's like I'm living in her mind, so everything she says, feels, and experiences, I'm experiencing it too. I'm her in the dreams. The first dream I had about her, I can never, ever forget. She or I was in a hospital in a white gown. My house ended up going into flames, and I was the only survivor in that fire, so I was taken off to the hospital, and after a few days, which in real life I waited a few days to get this part of the dream, I was walking out of the hospital in a new dress. The hallway was empty with lockers on the right side, and the lights were a little dim because it was late at night, and there was a man walking me out of the hospital. My Alexa just started talking out there. There's nobody out there. The hallway was empty with lockers, a little dim because it was late at night, and there was a man walking me out of the hospital. All of a sudden, we heard screaming from the treatment room, and the man let go of my hand and ran, yelling, "It's coming from the treatment room." I was waiting for the man to return in the hallway, and in the dream, the girl, or I, was holding a doll, and I was sitting by the wall with my head down on my knees because I was scared. Then the man came out, and there was blood all over him, so he picked me up and started sprinting to the exit. This part actually freaked me out the most. While he was sprinting, there was blood running down my legs, and I didn't know how it got there because the man didn't have his hand up my dress. The man falls, I fall, the rag doll fell into this weird black hole on the floor, and that just appeared in front of me. So I asked the man, "What's happening?" Now, honestly, I feel uncomfortable telling this story because this new person I'm about to tell you about is the real reason why I'm afraid of these dreams. I looked up at the ceiling and I saw this funny-looking girl staring down at me. She had long black hair, straight, skin that looked almost blue, and light blue eyes, and her head looked like it was upside down. For the past few years, I've been seeing her in my dreams. I was having a good dream, nice dream, then all of a sudden, her face pops in, and I woke up screaming. And when I woke up, she was literally, and I mean literally, on my ceiling staring at me. And I was just hiding under my sheets until she left. I've also noticed a few things that happen after these dreams. I always woke up on the floor after these dreams, and I tend to just walk alone in the dark until the sun comes up. Whenever I walk in the dark, I always take a female doll with me, whether it's my Minnie Mouse doll or one of my collectibles. And if I see a red light, when I wake up, I get chills up my spine, but it's not after I had the dream. I'm just normal. I don't have those dreams every day. It stopped for a couple of years and then just came back. I don't know. Is that a past life memory? I don't know. That's weird. I don't know what to make about that, but that's not sleep paralysis. It's not old hags or night attacks. It's maybe night terrors in a sense because they're all coming from a dream state. But is that just a memory of how her life ended before? Is she really that person more than just in the dream? I don't know. I guess anything's possible, but very strange. Here's another one. This one comes from Ohio. And it has to do with family friends visits. So this sounds like a real positive one. I want to see what Alexa was answering before, because nobody's out there. Nobody's out there to talk to her. Unless they got that really sensitive microphone on there, so it's possible I said something as I'm narrating or reading here that triggered it, but I don't remember her ever going off like that before. So I'll have to look at the app and see what could she possibly have been talking about. It says, when I was a little girl, my grandfather was my favorite person. We were extremely close, and I was the sun that man's earth revolved around. And I should tell you some background information before I tell you the main part of the story, so that it makes sense. When I was a child, my grandpa always called me Dutchie. I had a severe speech problem, which made it really difficult to understand me when I talked. Grandmother told my mom one day, I can't understand a word she's saying. She might as well be a little Dutch girl. And that just kind of stuck with me. And from then on, he called me Dutchie, short for little Dutch girl. Also, my mom moved us to West Virginia when I was very little, so I was raised there, but I would spend the summers in Ohio with my dad. Grandpa also lived in Ohio, and he was a huge baseball fan. Columbus has a minor league baseball team called the Columbus Clippers. Grandpa would pick me up from Dad's and take me to every single home game the Clippers played, so Grandpa and me spent a lot of time at Cooper Stadium watching the Clippers. And the last piece of information that would be helpful is my son, CJ. He was born when I was 18, and Grandpa died when I was 19. CJ was only 10 months old and doesn't remember him, but CJ was Grandpa's pride and joy. Grandpa loved him so much, and it really saddened me that he only saw him one time, 2 weeks before he died. Okay, so now on with the main part of that I wanted to share with everybody. My mom moved back to Ohio when I was only 20 years old. My mom moved back to Ohio when I was only 20. But me and my son stayed in West Virginia. I liked it there, but we would visit Mom a lot, especially in the summer when my son was 5. And we were visiting Mom. She went to a Clippers game at the stadium that Grandpa used to take me to. I was waiting in line for food, and my son took off running. I left the counter and went after him, but I lost sight of him in the crowd. In less than a minute, I saw him again, and I saw him walking towards me with his right arm in the air like he was holding the hand of an adult, but nobody was there beside him. I picked him up and hugged him and asked him if his arm was okay, and he said yes. And I asked him why he was holding it up, and he said he was holding his hand, and he turned to point to someone, but nobody was there. I asked whose hand, and he said that he's not there. Again, I asked whose hand, and my son said, Grandpa Sam's. I think that Grandpa went to the game with us that day, and he followed my son when he took off running and brought him back to me safely. When I was 26, I got married, and when I was 27, we built a house together. I'm 34 now, and when we were moving in, I was unpacking the master bedroom. Only me and my husband were there. My son was at a friend's house, and there was no music playing in the house. The house was fairly quiet when I heard a man's voice coming from the master bedroom that said, Hey, Dutchie. That's all he said. I walked into the bedroom and saw my husband in the living room, and he told him that I didn't think it's appropriate for him to call me that, as only my grandfather ever did. Grandfather, sorry. He had no idea what I was talking about. I told him, and he said that I never told him about that nickname. And when he said that, I thought about it, and I didn't remember ever telling him. This time I think that Grandpa just stopped by my new house to say hello. These are the two most intense encounters I have ever had with Grandpa, but other things have happened also. When I'm alone in the house, I know that I'm not actually alone. I smell cigar smoke. My grandfather smoked cigars, and I do not allow smoking in my house. And there have also been times when I felt pressure around my body. almost like someone's hugging me, but nobody's there. These things don't scare me at all. I am comfortable when these things happen, and I feel at ease. I feel that he keeps me and my son safe. I think that he even saved my dog's life one time, but I'll tell that story later. That's a cool thing. That's a cool, beautiful story. I mean, that's wonderful. Thinking that they're there, that they're around us. I think they are too. I think that our loved ones stay close. They don't disappear for long if they do at all. Maybe they're just always aware of us, because who knows how it works on the other side there. But maybe when we think about them, they're boom right there. Like there's not. We're so used to a 3-dimensional world where we're here and then we have to go there. But maybe in an energetic place, we're all those places anyway. So maybe they're always right with us. We just got to talk to them. Up to you to decide. But I think it's beautiful. I think that's beautiful to think that, my loved ones are still around me. I think they are. I think I receive signs quite often. Sometimes, in the weirdest ways. It's just, it'll be very individualistic, but a lot of times it comes to me through dreams. I've shared this many times on the show that, I seem to meet with deceased loved ones in my dreams, and it doesn't happen often. Maybe not even once a year. But when it does happen, these dreams are so poignant and powerful and lucid and real. They're just even more real than me sitting here talking to you, is all I can say. The colors are absolutely explosive and vivid. The smells, the sights, the feeling of things, it's just even more real than this. And that seems weird, but I don't know how else to explain it. But the experiences are so powerful that I'm a person that doesn't remember dreams. I might remember a little bit of a dream for maybe a few seconds after I wake up, and then it's just gone. But these dreams, when I have them, of meeting with these loved ones, are so powerful. They are so powerful and so amazing. And the substance of them is incredibly amazing too. So, I wish everybody would have those experiences, and maybe we do. But maybe everybody doesn't remember them. But I would like to think that if everybody had those kind of experiences, the grieving process would be so much lighter, because we would know. We would have those times of getting together with these loved ones and sharing moments from time to time. And how beautiful is that? I mean, I think the biggest pain of losing someone is just the unknown. You don't know. Are they okay? Are they in a good place? Are they happy? Are they lonely? Are they sad? What are they feeling? So when we can have those moments of coming together, it's just so cathartic and so incredibly powerful. If we're case in point, for those of you that are new to the show, my dad came to me after he passed. And, it was a hard thing for me when my dad passed, because I was way out here. I'm from Minnesota, and I live in the north of Idaho now. And I was out here and wasn't, we didn't know when my dad was going to die. He had a degenerative condition with his lungs. And so we didn't know. He was just, touch and go. Seemed to be doing okay, holding steady. And nothing seemed to be changing. Then suddenly, boom, it was done. Now, I had gone home to see him months before that, but it was hard not being able to be there, and not being able to be there for everybody, I guess. So it was a painful thing for me, because I felt so far away, so far removed from the whole experience, and not able to be there with my family, who was dealing with the sadness of this experience. But he came to me in a dream, and it was so amazing. It was so powerful, and I've shared it many times. So I won't go into it in depth, but I left that dream knowing that I had talked to my father. I left that dream knowing I had said the things that I had always wanted to say, but hadn't really either chosen to or hadn't had the nerve to, whatever the case was. But it was so incredibly powerful. And, I feel him around still. So I think they're there, ladies and gentlemen. I do. I don't think they abandon us. I just think they're still in our lives. We just got to find out how to see them now, how to feel them, how to experience them. Because obviously they're not in a body. but they are there. Take it or leave it. It's my 2 cents. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap up our show for tonight. Thank you to everybody who's been here. Those of you that have come in and found the show, please feel free to share any of these videos. If you think anybody on your news feeds or whatever would enjoy the Paranormal Portal, I'd be honored if you shared them. Always, go ahead. You don't need my permission. Just put them on your social media or anywhere else you think people might enjoy it. It's an honor. It's an absolute honor. So if you're not subscribed, again, please get subscribed. Love to have you be a part of the family all the time. But, and if you are subscribed, ring the bell. I don't know. Check for the podcast. That'll be coming out later. After I'm done with the show here, I'll be loading that up and putting it out there. And I hope you guys stay involved. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of the Paranormal Portal. And, if you've got a story of your own, you want to reach out to me, email me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. And I'd love to talk to you about your encounter too. And if you got a few of them, let me know and we can have you as a guest on the podcast. So that's all I got for you guys. Love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice, take care of each other, help each other out, find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. And I'll be back with Don on Wednesday, so we'll look for you then. Take care, everybody, and sweet dreams.